In today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about whether I have solved my workbench conundrum. So, I think about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago, I released a podcast and it was titled My Workbench Conundrum, something like that it was titled. So, in that podcast, I basically talked about my growing disinterest for the Nicholson bench, which ironically is behind the camera. So I still haven't gotten rid of it. It's still there. But out of me growing disinterest for that, for anyone that follows us, you'll probably know that this guy's new on the scene. So for those of you that haven't seen this and don't follow us and just by chance have come across this podcast, there is a build video that I've just released and there is free plans. The plans are free as of now. I may pull them, I'm not too sure, but as of now they are free. So this was basically born out of the disinterest and the things that pretty much got on my nerves with the Nicholson bench. So have I solved my conundrum? I'm not overly sure if I've solved it because, as I stated, I do like to work on a lower bench. But having said that, this thing's been working out really well for us. So I think one of the biggest gripes what I had with the Nicholson bench was that I wasn't able to clamp to the side. Obviously there's an apron on the side, both sides of the Nicholson bench. So one of the things I did actually do with this bench, or when I was designing it rather, was to have the opposite side, which hasn't got an apron. Basically it's got an overhang and that allows us to clamp directly to the underside of the bench. So it is pretty much just like a Roman workbench in that respect. So I really like that. So what I did do, the two gable ends and this side is there's no obstructions, so I can clamp directly underneath it. And for me, I really like that. Obviously it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really like that. Don't get us wrong, I understand the value of an apron, which is why I put this guy on. So for those of you that haven't seen anything about this bench, it just basically sits on 2 little cleats and it is kept in place by 4 bench pups. It's absolutely solid. Once the 4 bench pups are in and the 2 cleats are obviously taking the downward force, and because of that, the apron isn't able to tilt or like move at all, if that makes sense. So it is really sturdy for what it is. And obviously, as I said, I understand the value of an apron. So obviously there's an apron there. I haven't used the apron extensively, although it has come in pretty handy. So I think on the respects of that issue with the Nicholson bench compared to my Roman workbench, I think I have solved that issue. Obviously, you know, being able to go all the way around the bench or all the 3 sides of the bench, which is adequate for me. Another issue I was having was that the Nicholson bench would move about a lot when I was planing, when I was sawing, mostly at the end if I was using, say, the frame saw and maybe one of the teeth or the teeth in general just got stuck into the grain of the wood. Maybe I hit a knot, something like that, and obviously, you know, the force what I'm pushing with, and I would just rock the whole bench. So I'm not overly sure of the weight of the Nicholson bench. I've never weighed it. When I first built this, I did actually weigh this, and this was £150, I believe, if memory serves us. It's not really heavy, but it is the weight of maybe the average little guy, you know, the size of myself, although I don't weigh 150 pounds, I'm on the heavy side at the moment. But you know, maybe a woman, so there is a bit of weight in it. So I think one of the good things I did, which I'm happy I did, I put some crubber on the underside of the feet, which I think has been really good. So when I've been playing and sawing on it, I haven't had no movement at all, which is obviously what I want. And obviously I've got some tools on here which, you know, it's added weight, which obviously helps as well. So there has been a few questions about this, and people are saying, there's been a number of people that have said, what's it like for chiseling? So basically, you know, we're getting a chisel and we're chiseling on top of it. Is there much bounce? So to look at it, especially at the front, and with it being plywood, you would think there would be some give or some sort of a bounce. And I did demonstrate this on one of the videos, one of the previous videos, and that was entitled something like the showcasing the slaughter bench. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a cheesy name, and so I went back to just the slot bench. So we're going to forget about the slaughter bench. But as I said, when I'm chiseling, there's no issues at all. There's no bounce. It's just like a dead blow, which again is what you want. So even if you were like really bothered about that, one thing to bear in mind here is that on this side of the bench, we've actually got a solid piece of ply. So this solid piece of ply is 22mm thick, and anybody that knows a little bit about how things work and, you know, like engineering, I'm not an engineer, I don't claim to be an engineer. I am a scaffolder though, and I do understand how structures work. I've been doing it for 26 years, so I do have a little bit of knowledge about that. So when there's a force being applied to the top, i.e. we're using chisel and a mallet, some people are thinking that this is gonna bow. Now obviously if I was doing it on the very edge, there would be some bounce in it, don't get us wrong, you know, but if you're gonna use this and you use it smartly, you know, a nice place is gonna be here, and this is, what was it again? I forget what it was. Was it 100 and... So it's 140mm to the edge of where the tabs go through, or the tenons, if you will. So when the force is being applied here, the force is being applied on top, and then that force is being distributed through this panel, and it's working its way along to the feet and then to the floor, you know, and that's how it's being distributed. At the end of the day, there's no way with the forces I'm able to put upon this bench that this panel is going to flex in any way, shape or form. It's just not going to happen. It just defies the laws of physics. There's no way on earth I can exert enough force for this to flex or to break or damage in any way, shape or form. So because that's a solid piece, it is obviously transferring a lot of the weight to the feet. So obviously the force is just going to get dissolved through the feet and into the floor. To be completely transparent and to be truthful, I do have a couple of gripes with this bench. Now, they're not major gripes, but they are there. And it might just be me. I think one of them is just kind of me, and, you know, I was limited with things, and actually this was taken into account when I was actually making it, the material I had. which was, I do have a sustainer down here. The sustainer holds a Veritas, let us get this right, is it a TKB 55, like a cordless track saw? I think that's a model. So when I was building this, I did primarily want to store it in here, and it is stored in there, but it can be a little bit awkward to get out. It will come out. I'm not talking about, you know, it doesn't take minutes to get out. It's just a little awkward to get out. And my hands were tied with this just for the materials and the design itself. I wasn't overly happy with making this hole any bigger. Obviously, the bigger the cutouts, the less of the material, you know, to support the top, that section there, and I didn't want that, so I wasn't willing to go any lower than what it was, which I think is 100 millimeters, so that's like 4 inches. So you've got like 4 inches of width, you know, supporting this top. Obviously it's 150 at the sides, which again helps to disperse the weight into the feet. So I think that's kind of one of the gripes. It's, again, that's kind of not a massive issue. I'm just being honest about it, and it does piss us off, if I'm honest. I have to be honest with you. Another thing that does bother us with this, and I am going to change it, and I did actually change this in the plans, is that when I originally built this, when I pulled the line down the centre for the dog holes, is that I basically made it the centre of the box, because this is actually, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the camera, you should. There is like a box, so basically what I've done, I've come to the centre of this box and I've just pulled the line all the way down, and I didn't really give it much thought, you know, which I'm quite used to doing things like that, unfortunately. It normally bites us in the butt. But so one of the issues is that when I do put a, not a hole fast, when I do put a clamp in, and I have been using these extensively with this bench, obviously, you know, it is a kind of an MFT hybrid bench, if you will. So when I designed it, I did have these in mind, because I had to basically forego the hole fasts, which I really like, and I was torn with that a little bit. But as I said, one of the issues with this is that, let's just say I'm gonna plane some wood, some edge planing, you know, maybe I'm going to join some boards together for glue up. So one of the things that I noticed quite, you know, like straight away, was the fact that when I've got the clamp in place, I can only turn it so much, which is a bit of a, if you know what I mean. So what sort of angle are we looking at there? So I'm looking at it, and without measuring it, I'm going to say that's about 35 to 40 degrees. Now, it's not a major issue, but it was a little bit problematic when I was using some Waney edge oak, and basically the Waney edge oak, it was really, you know, it was really wild. So this, it didn't struggle, it still clamped it, but basically because it was Waney, it was going all over the place, it wasn't as secure. Well, it was secure, that's not the right word. It wasn't clamping where I would like it to be clamped. I would have preferred it to be clamped more into the board. It was like more to the edge of the board, which I wasn't too happy about. So when I actually drew the plans, I moved these row of holes, I moved them down. So basically, with the new holes, they're about, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see what I'm doing here. So basically, that's going to give you maybe 50 degrees, which is obviously a lot better. It is closer to the bottom, but this isn't an issue because obviously I've got no need to clamp that way, and I can't really think of anything that I would need to clamp where I would need to turn the clamp down over rather than up over. So obviously I've changed those in the plans and it makes more sense to me. So that's, I don't know if I can call it a gripe, to be honest, but it is there and it is present, and obviously, as I said, I'm trying to be transparent here with it. Another issue is that when I am using these clamps, I've got 4 of them all together. I've got 2 quick release and I've got 2 just hand crank ones. So when I am using them, sometimes you couldn't write this, could you? If I tried to do that off camera, it wouldn't have happened. So basically, when I'm trying to put these through the hole, and it's done it again nice and quick. Sometimes, not this time, but sometimes they can be awkward to get in. Never too awkward to get out, but always awkward to get in, apart from now. So that's annoying us a little bit. In my mind, I keep on jogging back to the holdfasts. You know, again, anyone that's used holdfasts is just like bosh in, couple of taps, and you're good to go. And I do really like my holdfasts, but obviously the issue is that this is only 22mm ply, and it's not going to grab it very well, unfortunately. So there was a lot of people that did comment, you know, and said, you know, can you do this and can you do that and so on and so forth and whatever. And, you know, if you're kind of that way inclined, you could have got 2 sheets of, you know, the top sizes and just laminated them together. You could have done that. But one of the issues with it is that if you were to do that, for me at least anyway, I'd have to make the tabs bigger, because when you are putting this together, it does go together quite quickly, and I'm talking like minutes, you know, when you put it together. But sometimes when you are putting it together, you might have trouble lining the tabs up. So obviously when you're having trouble lining the tabs up, as it is now, you can visually see what you're doing. So if I've got another piece glued onto the top of this and I can't see the tabs, obviously it's just going to be a lot harder for me to get the top on, and it's going to be frustrating. And halfway through designing this in my head, when I was thinking about things, I was designing it for myself, and foremost it is for myself. But then I did think, well, what about if other people would like to do it? So that was kind of the reason why I abandoned making this thicker. It's obviously to keep costs down as well. I mean, initially I bought 3 sheets of 22mm plywood, and I paid £40 per sheet. I don't know what that is in dollars, but as we all know, sheet material, any wood in fact, you know, it went sky high during like 2020, and it hasn't really come back down. I think it did a little bit, some material, but not all material, and I still think ply is, you know, it's kind of, it's really up there, because I did contemplate on going out and buying some, maybe some maple or some birch plywood. So it is going to be stronger, at least for me, but I did actually query this to the guy I do get plywood off, and he did inform me that birch ply is not structurally rated. I didn't know that, but he knows his plywood, and obviously I don't. But he was he was saying, sorry, not this plywood's not rated, or it might be rated, I think it is, but he was basically saying that spruce plywood is rated and the birch is not. But I personally think the birch is stronger, although, you know, he knows his plywood. But one thing I do know about birch plywood is that it's very, very stable, or at least it's been very, very stable for me in this part of the world, which is northeast of the UK, England. So it's, you know, birch plywood I found it very, very, very stable, whereas spruce plywood, you know, I've seen it warp all over the place. But again, you know, it would have been nice to do it with birch, but again, to keep the costs down, I've went with the Chinese hardwood ply, and I have to be honest, it's been fine. You know, I'm not really keen on the colour of it, but it is fine. It's not all doom and gloom. There is some likes, and I'm going to go through a few of them, what I do like. I'm probably going to repeat myself a few times, yeah, but obviously I did mention about the being able to clamp all the way around. I absolutely love that. I really like that. I cannot stress enough how much I like that. After coming from the Nicholson bench and not being able to use my low bench, obviously for my back issues, it's been really, really nice. So another thing that I do like, and I've just been saying I don't like it, but basically when I managed to get these in quick enough, which it's just making us look a fool today, but when I do get these in, I do actually like how solid these actually hold. Again, they won't replace a hold fast, but I do really, really like them. When I've been sawing on this, when I have been planing on this bench has not moved at all. And again, I'm absolutely loving that. Same coming from the Nicholson bench, and it's just been a total nightmare, you know, planing and things, you know, moving around, and it's really annoying when, you know, things like that happen. Another thing that I'm absolutely loving about this bench is the width of it. So this is wider than my Nicholson bench. Obviously it's wider than all of my Roman benches I've ever used or built. You know, a Roman bench will never ever be this wide because obviously you've got to sit on it. And another thing that I like about the top, which I did actually use today, is the fact that it's flat. It's flat, it's going to warp very minimally. It's not going to warp like the Nicholson bench, because obviously the Nicholson bench is solid wood. So this is going to stay pretty flat for the lifetime it stays on top of the bench. Another thing I like about the whole bench in general, it's all built of components. So if I damage the top really, really badly, or I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line, if it's really beat up, and just take it off and replace it. It's as simple as that. And it's just one piece, which is pretty cool. Now you wouldn't get that with any other sort of bench, to my knowledge anyway. You know, it's just going to be a case of going out, and I'm not even going to be using a full sheet of ply. Again, it's going to be cheap, it's going to be cost effective, and it's going to be pretty quick just to swap that out. And it goes for anything. If anything gets damaged and I'm not happy about it, because it's built you know, as you know, components, I'm able just to remove that components and swap it out. I mean, I don't even have to worry about making it the right size per se. You know, I just stick a couple of nails through the let's say the top, or even some double-sided sticky tape, and get a router out. you know, I probably wouldn't do that, but if I really wanted to make things simple and I really wanted to get that sort of precision, you know, off this top, you know, basically mimic or reproduce this top, you know, like 100%, you know, I could do that. And again, that's another thing I like about it. It's going to be quick to replace. It's not going to cost us a fortune, so I do really like that about it. And to state the obvious, if I need this space here, I can basically take this apart in minutes and get it stacked against the wall or take it outside, and it's manageable again because it's in components rather than components that are grouped together like a Nicholson bench. You know, for instance, a Nicholson bench, that specific Nicholson bench behind the camera, that's grouped together. It's components grouped together. So, you know, you've got the apron in one half of the top, so that's two components grouped together. You've got the same the other side. Then obviously you've got all the legs together. So obviously with this, you can see it's for carrying, for replacing, anything like that. For me anyway, it just trumps it. You know, so you could argue that I'm being biased, and yeah, to a degree I probably am being biased, but as I said, using it, I haven't had a great deal of issues with it. Like nothing where I think, ooh, you know, nothing like that. As I said, you know, a couple of things that were griping is obviously getting me sustainer in and out of the undershelf. You know, getting these clamps in and out. still coming out nice and easy. So sometimes getting those in and out can be a little bit frustrating, you know, but other than that, I can't really fault it. So I'm very, very happy that I've built it and the design's worked out the way it has, you know. And for those of you that are kind of interested, I did do a video showcasing the slot workbench, and I do chisel on this. I do a little bit of edge planing with the apron, then I plane on top, do some sawing on the gable ends. So it's not extensive, but if you are interested or you're in kind of you're looking for a new bench, or maybe you haven't got a bench, maybe you've got a small space, maybe you're working on a balcony, maybe you're working in an apartment, you know, this is your little thing. So as I said, this will come apart in minutes. It's probably going to take me a little bit longer, in all fairness, because I have got stuff, you know, on the under shelf. But the bench itself, without anything on the under shelf, is going to come apart in minutes. So, you know, that's going to be a good thing for those of you that haven't got a lot of room, etc, etc. So again, you know, I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, the apron is detachable. It's not a must, you know, so if you wanted to, you could use this whole entire bench again. And this is something I like about the design, you know, this is something I did think about. I like the fact that you can just use it without the apron. Maybe you're one of these guys that uses, you know, power tools a lot. This is going to be able to cope with it. And again, that's what I like about it. For me, it is going to be a mixture, but it is going to be most likely more geared towards hand tools, because obviously I do use primarily hand tools. Obviously I'm using my track saw quite a lot lately, but you know, I did get it to help with me back, and you know, it's just one of those things. But I do still use my Ryoba saws. I do still do quite a lot of hand sawing because it's enjoyable to me. So did I solve my conundrum? Like I said, I can't say 100% that I did, you know, for the reason that I do like to use a lower bench. But under the circumstances with my back issues, in my growing disinterest for the Nicholson bench, I do feel I have solved the conundrum. Do you think I've solved the conundrum? Do you like the bench? What are your views on this bench? You know, do you think it's crap? Do you think it's good? Or do you think it's what do you think about it? I'd be interested to hear. I'm very open to criticism. Just make it constructive. You know, let us know what is wrong with it if you don't like it, so on and so forth. And until the next time, I shall see and speak to you guys later.